The next thing that you need to be able to understand is the difference between short-run aggregate supply and long-run aggregate supply. And to put these ideas together, we need to review what the difference between short-run and long-run actually is. In the short run, and we can't pin this down as a particular time period. Is it 6 months? Is it 2 years? Is it a week and a half? We don't know, because it's going to be different depending on the particular situation that a given business is in. The short run is the period of time when something is fixed. Some input price, some contract you can't get out from under. Something is fixed in the short run, at least one of your factors of production. Maybe it's a wage contract. Maybe it's something where you can only negotiate with the union every couple of years and then you're locked in. Maybe it's deals that you have with suppliers who are bringing you materials or bringing you intermediate goods that you're using in production, where you're locked in for a certain amount of time. Or maybe you have a lease on a storefront and you can't get out of your lease without paying heavy fees, and so you have to wait until your lease is up. As long as those time periods last, it's the short run, because at least one of your factors is fixed. You cannot deal with it today. In the long run, this is as long as it takes for everything to be variable. Something is fixed in the short run, everything is variable in the long run. It's however long it takes for you to be out from under all of those obligations that you were dealing with in the closer amount of time. So, how does that translate into changing the shape of our aggregate supply curve? Well, the short run curves we've spent a lot of time dealing with. Price level, GDP, and we have upward slope, okay, where in the flat part we have perhaps a prolonged recession where we increase spending and for a while we see no upward pressure on price. In the upward sloping region right here, we start to see some upward pressure on price while we're still increasing production and getting into full employment and past full employment. And then as the curve eventually starts to go vertical, we're pushing past full capacity. At that point, we still have to keep paying people more and more money to come to work, for example. But we're really not seeing the big jumps in GDP that we saw down here when we had zero inflation. That's our short run curve. That's the one we've been dealing with. Now, how does that translate into short run as a time period? Well, in the short run, where something is fixed, the thing that you've got to remember is that businesses and consumers and everybody else in the economy do not have equivalent information, and they do not have adequate time to really digest all the information they're getting. And they may not have all the information to deal with. So workers, for example, may not realize that they ought to be entitled to a wage increase because they don't necessarily know what's happening with inflation. So, short run, something at least is fixed, and people do not have adequate information to make adjustments to what they're doing. Businesses don't, individuals don't, workers don't. It's somewhere across the board. You've got entities here economically that don't have time to deal with it. When we go to the long run, same axes, same general idea, but your long run aggregate supply curve is vertical. Now, why is that? Because Short run, you don't have time to make any of those adjustments, or you don't have time to make all of the adjustments to changes in inflation. Long run, you do. For example, for a business owner, today he can't change his prices. Next week he can't change his prices. He's not going to deal with wages right now. But as the inflation rate continues to climb, and the workers are renegotiating so that their wages keep pace with inflation, which long term is the theory that wages and inflation will eventually catch up to each other, then he's going to adjust prices such that the profit will be normalized and production will be at the same level. No matter what happens to the inflation rate, that's what this vertical curve means. It means that our level of GDP is fixed despite what's happening with prices. That changes in price are irrelevant because once you have that time to adjust to what's happening in the market, you will come back to your equilibrium. So that's your long-run aggregate supply. That's your aggregate demand. And there's your equilibrium price level. Yeah.